Focus on panels where I bring together people that I believe are experts in their field to discuss a particular topic. And today we're going to be looking at the importance of a sales funnel. So before we dive into that, we'll just go around the room and get some introductions from these lovely people and find out who they are and what they do. So Julie, you're up first.
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Julie Futcher and the Sales Ace. I work with businesses to help skyrocket their sales through sales training and sales consultancy.
Excellent. And Eleanor?
Hello everybody, I'm Eleanor Lester from Shrewd PR. I'm a PR and marketing consultant and I help businesses to get their comms in order so that they're targeting the right people at the right times for their businesses.
Excellent. And last but not least, Kevin with the background that's not working properly.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, Kevin. I'm just the milkman. I was just passing and somebody else. Kevin, from your copywriter, one of the things that we do here is, because obviously, the world of sales has kind of changed over time. And a lot of that now is done pre the meeting, pre the appointment, pre whatever online with copy. So we create copy here that helps to push people down the sales funnel. So hopefully when Julie's training people, their job is a little easier because of the stuff that we've done.
There you go then. Hand in hand. So if anybody's tuning into this live, then feel free to put comments on wherever you are on social media. We should be able to bring those up on the screen. If you're watching it in a replay, then again, you're welcome to put sort of like comments and we'll get back to you as I will tag these guys in the places where this is going out after the show, as it were. Now a show, who knew? So why don't we start off with the basics? Because there may be people that don't know what a sales funnel is. I guess sometimes called a sales pipeline. So I'll come to you first, Julie. Do you just want to say what it is so people know what we're talking about?
So a sales funnel or a sales pipeline, it is really for me a visual representation of the sales steps that you have in your business and how prospective business moves through that. And it's a great way to manage the revenue coming into your business so you don't have these peaks and troughs, roller coaster, as I like to call it.
Yeah. And do you think, is it one of these things that small businesses might think, well, that's just something the corporates do and, it's just one of those sort of corporate exercises? Or do you feel it's as important for small businesses to sort of do something like this? I
personally think it's imperative for any size business, whether you're on your own, sitting in your back bedroom, just making, models to send out every so often, but you want to get a little bit of money from it, to these large multi-million pound corporations. Everybody should be looking at managing and understanding their pipelines. I find that the small business owner don't create it, they don't write it down, they don't analyze it because it's just them, it's in their head. And this is why they will be working in a business. They'll come to the end of that particular piece of business, look around and think, oh my gosh, I've got no money coming in. I've got to do so. And it's this revenue, peaks and troughs, roller coasters, whatever, that could create. So,
yeah, rather than just winging it, I guess. Yeah. Eleanor, in your world, do you find that your clients put sales funnels together, or do you get involved in helping them with that?
It depends rather on who the client is, but yes, as to whether or not I get fully involved. Certainly, most of them will have a sales pipeline or a sales funnel of some description. I've got some retailers, so we obviously Christmas is a key part of their sales funnel, and we also sort of look at their sort of key dates and we try and make sure that we bolster our funnels around where those dates are for them. So we might focus a little bit more on messaging, say sort of 6 to 8 weeks before those big events and things like that, to try and keep us sort of front and present from that perspective. So, yeah.
Kevin in the green room, you kindly put together a workshop for the business community members called Shoving It Up Your Funnel. So I guess you've got some views. Perhaps you'd like to elaborate on your thoughts on sales.
I would elaborate on that. So the first thing I would elaborate on is that was actually your title, not mine, Paul Green. So
no, I need to contact my lawyer now.
I think, that there's I couldn't help thinking though when you were going around the room that there is an importance when it comes to people's sales funnel about recognizing the interconnectedness of things now. You know, Julie does amazing work in what she does, and you know, and Eleanor, when you were talking about Christmas, I was thinking, yeah, but how long is it up until that run? You know, and you know, Julie's entirely right when she's talking about the funnel and the need for it. But I think where sometimes I find that people are really not aware is how much you can put in to make that funnel work.
Yeah,
and it particularly, I don't know but you know, older people like you, Paul, particularly have a very you know, a kind of. I mean, we have to be really. What I'm saying is, I should stop messing around. I'm trying to be make a point here about the traditional view that the sales funnel used to be a lot simpler than it is now, I think, and I think it used to be a lot easier, particularly in things like retail, which was pretty much a linear progress, wasn't it? You advertised, people came through the door, some nice salesperson wandered off, told them about a product, they bought it, and away they went, and Christmas present was bought. But it's much bigger than that now. So I think sales funnels have become more important and actually less defined in many ways, I think, as we've gotten older.
I think you're right, Kevin, about there's shoving up your funnel. I love that. That's gonna make me giggle all day. But there are a number of activities and things that you can do to shove it up your funnel. For me, in my mind, sales and marketing should be interlaced, because it is looking at a myriad of different things that go into the top of the funnel. And it's then how you manage that through. I think what I find, again, with the smaller business is, and the reason this roller coaster happens is because as small business people, and I'm going to put this myself into this, when you're on your own and you're delivering stuff or you're doing stuff, and then you've got to step out of that and do other things, you forget that you're going to have to generate activity or do activities that keep shoving things in the top of this funnel, particularly if you're busy. One of the things that I'm very conscious of this. So in my marketing, in my sort of business generation activities, I've had to look at things that work and put stuff in that funnel without me having to do a lot of proactive time because I don't have the time. And I think that's a thing that is a balance in a lot of businesses. It's what marketing activities, what things can you do that feed that funnel when you're busy developing. And this is why Kevin and Eleanor are so important for that and what they do, because their work behind the scenes fills it while you're busy.
I guess some of the stuff that you do, Eleanor, with your clients, you know, working on the PR and the social media, I guess on one level, that's potentially the start of a small business funnel, isn't it? Because you're trying to get prospects on the start of the journey. So how do you find implementing that with the clients that you work with and getting them to sort of see that it's not just getting the prospects to a particular place, it's also what you do next?
I think I'm fortunate that most of them are open-minded enough to realise that this is about building a relationship. And it's all very well wishing that you could go over and sort of bash people over the heads with a hammer and say, come and buy my product. But actually, you've got to invest some time and effort in actually creating that relationship so that when the time is right for that person to buy, they know that you're the best placed company to come and do that. And it doesn't matter whether you are a retailer, it doesn't matter whether you're a service provider, it's about that communication and it's about consistency of message, and just making sure that you are always making people aware of the services that you offer. And I think also being aware that it does take time for things to come off. I mean, Julie, I remember years ago you telling us that you'd had one particular client that it had taken you 5 years to get to. I had a similar situation in June of last year, somebody that I'd pitched to 5 years ago and I'd kept in touch with, ultimately became a client. And it does take, it can take time. I'm not saying that it always does take 5 years, but it is about that relationship, and it's about helping your potential customer to realize that you are the best placed business or organization to solve the problem that they've got.
Yeah.
Adam commented in the chat about the importance of the customer journey and understanding that. Kevin, were you going to leap in?
I would, yeah. While Ellen was talking, Adam said something that's really. It's a phrase I haven't seen for a while. It says, "Marketing opens what sales closes," and I think there's two things there. You know, Adam's entirely right. Of course, he does it. That's never going to change. You know, that's the purpose of marketing is to make a nice. I think the actual, I can't remember what the Institute of Marketing says, but it's something about building a bridge between the customer and the products and services they need, and that's what we do. You know, my job is to create a nice, fluffy, welcoming world for the customer who needs to be in that nice, fluffy, welcoming world. The job of sales is to, you know, give them what they need once they get there to make the right decision. And it is about right decisions. I think, you know, sometimes sales funnels and the whole discussion of standing back and talking about how you sell to customers gets a bad rep. And I think we probably also need to make the distinction here between click funnels and sales funnels. They're very, very different things. But it's the first, you know, Adam, sorry, distracting me there with that. That's so spot on about how they should work together. But the thing that I think was really interesting, Julie, you said about saving time by getting you know, something done outsourced as well. One of the things that I think people don't often recognize when they're building a sales funnel is that it has other functions besides pushing a customer down to that point where they, whatever the sales target is, you know, whether that's booking an appointment, the actual sale, the online sale, whatever, and obviously that varies. So if you are, you know, the one I used in the shoving it up your funnel training was, if you're an osteopath, actually the end of your sales funnel might be an appointment booking, not a check. If you're online retailer selling t-shirts, then it's the sale of the t-shirt, isn't it? You know, so the target changes, but the sales funnel, when you look at it, can do so much more because it's talking about how your product relates to the customer. So everything in theory that is pushing your business forward should, in theory, relate to the sales funnel in some way, you would hope. But it doesn't always. And I think that's where people like us can come in and really help people sometimes, just by standing back and taking a look, you know.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, building on that, Kevin, you get involved in website development with some of your clients as well. Do you find that small businesses are more savvy about that process? Because I guess you still see out there just sort of like brochure websites with no real, you know, good copy sort of telling the customer what to do or the prospect what to do, and no real step-by-step process once they've got that person to the website. It's almost like, you know, we build it and they will come type thing, but you've actually got to engage with the customer, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's sorry, I was laughing there about two things when you said, are they more savvy? And I just thought, no, sometimes. Sometimes I'm sure all three of us agree we have to bang somebody's head on the desk, metaphorically, to get them to realize what we're saying to them, you know, that we can help. It's a little bit like you're pushing that ball up the hill just to watch it roll back sometimes, isn't it? But yeah, Paul, I mean, you're right. And the other thing, actually, I wouldn't be careful being too harsh with brochure sites. Not everybody needs a big fancy site. Sometimes that's enough. It's about the tool and the practicalities and use of the tool, not necessarily the development. And apologies to all the website developers now who don't come round my place with burning pitchforks and burning torches and stuff now, but sometimes you can overproduce. You can do too much. It can be over flashy. You don't need the fancy designs. Sometimes you just need to keep it simple a lot of the time, you know. But it's about recognizing what the funnel does and the things that affect it. Just, if I'm allowed, just a quick example. One of the things that has started to happen over the last year or so quite a lot is that something like your internal HR policy can affect your sales funnel. I've had several clients now saying to me in the HR arena, saying customers are starting to say to the salespeople, how do you treat your staff? So, you know, Eleanor, that's a PR thing, isn't it? In one respect, but at the same time, Julie, if somebody come and said, I've got this sales tool here, here's how we treat our staff, you'd be going, attach it to the bloody sales funnel there. You know, absolutely. So it's a big complex world, isn't it now? And I don't think it's as simple as your question sounds, Paul. I'm afraid. Sorry, I think it's more complex.
No, I agree with you, because people buy from businesses for all different sorts of reasons. I mean, yes, they start out with their need, want, issue, or problem, which is where, you know, I start talking to people about talking to the customer. And you're right, Kevin, you talk about that. But then once those conversations start, it's then about what drives, what hooks that customer in. One of the things that I pick up on that point about how do you treat your staff is that a lot of feedback from customers is if there's a high turnover of sales staff, where people are constantly getting different account managers or different people in, they start to question their experience with that business. It kind of cuts back to what Adam was saying about the customer experience. And that has a big effect on future business with that person, because, you know, they're fed up with seeing different faces all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's really interesting.
But don't you think? Sorry, I'm really taking the opportunity to pick Julie's brains now, to be honest. Don't you think sometimes we do over rely on the metrics though, and we over rely on that because, you know, it sounded there like you were suggesting rather radically that people buy from people, and
you know what? They do.
Somebody should say that, shouldn't they?
You heard it first here.
Hey, yes, stop press. People buy from people.
Yeah, but it is this thing of the journey. Adam mentioned the journey on the thing as well there, Ellen, you were talking about it. I think we need to recognise that the sales funnel isn't pure fact. There's people on the other end of it, you know, and they are wonderful and deeply, deeply, deeply distressing at times as well. You know, they just do weird things, and I think the sales funnel has to be human. It has to be.
It does.
People.
But I think what we have to be careful though, and we can be in danger of, and I agree, the sales funnel can be quite complex, but for a smaller business, it's just that simplistic thing of you've got to make sure that you're always shoving something up your funnel for something to drop out the other side. And that is a big message I want to get out with this.
Yeah.
This is why I'm kind of so passionate about sales planning and sales funnels and having a handle on it all, because, you know, whether you're a tiny small business or whether you're as I said, multi-million, it's being aware of what you're doing. You can't turn your back on it.
Yeah, totally. I'm not in any way questioning the validity of those metrics. I just, you know, I've come across people who focus so much on that they've forgotten to put good stuff in the top end in the first place. You know, and they are reliant. You know, that result is reliant on good things going in, isn't it? You know?
Metrics and understanding the metrics of it and looking at conversion rates, things like that are fantastic. And I talk with clients about that all the time. But those sort of metrics and we get into those conversations with the larger businesses where they've got sales teams, and we're looking at numbers of calls to quote conversions, how, you know, whatever. So yeah, but the bottom line is, with whatever size business you are, you've got to keep putting stuff in the top. And the other thing that I do see sometimes in businesses, which is wrong, is that salespeople will overburden or over rely on marketing to feed the funnel. And again, I have many conversations with marketeers, marketing managers, etc., within businesses that they get pushed back on, and the sales team are going, well, you're not providing the lead. Well, come on, guys, if you're in sales, you know, it's down to you to feed your pipeline as much as it is marketing to drive some stuff through. Anyway, I've had my nag.
But Julie, you're absolutely right. We've been talking about. Certainly, the existing scenario that we're all living through at the moment is that it's likely that every business's belt is going to be tightened in some description. And actually, in those scenarios where yes, you might think, okay, well, let's just curtail everything. Well, that's the last thing you ever go and do. Absolutely. But it's about making sure that you're still visible and you're still having those conversations. So even if your sales guy hasn't got the latest bit of marketing material, there's nothing to stop him going up and actually having a chat with his existing customers and finding out how they're going. And it's where Adam was saying earlier, it's about that relationship. It's about asking questions, and being sort of forward thinking, because if you're doing that, then you'll always have something that you can put in the top of your sales funnel, because you've always asked the question. But I guess it's also having the confidence and the self-belief of actually being able to get out there and do that.
But we talk about that, and you talk about we're in a time where businesses are tightening their belts. But I just want to go back to the beginning of COVID. I've said the C word now. A lot of businesses survived through COVID, and the ones that did this, some of them were in marketplaces where consumers were buying a lot, whatever, but others, they looked at what their offering was and they adapted it. They looked at the marketplace and they thought, actually, we can resolve a need, an issue, a problem in this particular marketplace. And I was having a conversation with one of my contacts only yesterday about the word recession is being thrown around, and here we go again. Actually, that's not even considering in my psyche, because at the end of the day, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at where we're at, what I can do, how I can adapt that will resolve problems for this particular marketplace. I mean, the bottom line is, in training and sales, you come into a marketplace where you're going to have to be a little bit more creative or assertive, or whether sales training, well, you know what, that's something that everybody's going to look at. So, it's about reading that market. It's about thinking outside the box and that adaptation of what you do. And that's what got a lot of businesses through COVID. So we just need to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the keys to doing that is we just sort of touched on the tension that sometimes does build up between sales and marketing. And I think, there is a very valid complaint sometimes from the marketing people, where when salespeople say, well, you're not feeding the funnel, that they come back and go, well, tell us what you bloody wanted then.
If we provide you with the leads, bloody follow them up.
Follow them up and do it after we've done it. Yeah, but there is, isn't it? You're at the sales end of the funnel. The real sales end of the funnel is always at boots on the ground stage. It's always talking to the customer, so it should be feeding that back to the marketing. And marketing should then not be sitting around being clever about it. They should be reacting to that and saying, okay, well, what works here? You're going back to the salespeople, going back to the marketing and saying, you're the creatives, create something that will keep this going. The marketing should respond to that and be creative, and that doesn't matter the size of the business. I don't think matters with that. That process it should be there, And even in very small businesses, sometimes there is a gulf between even in the owner salesperson, one person will have a gulf between that's my marketing and there's my sales practice, and never the twain. You think, what is going on here? Marketing people are creatives by nature. They will respond very well if you put input in that they want. Look at the way that the advertising agency react when they told them they couldn't sell alcohol in a particular way. They created the Guinness ad that's one of the best ads of all time because somebody told them they couldn't do something. Yeah,
Are you trying to
they've got to work together.
Really lovely people, Kevin.
We are delightful people, Julie Butcher.
Absolutely, I agree. Sales people and marketing people should be the best of friends.
Absolutely. And we throw these statistics around. I do it as well when I'm part of my sales process. Say, a customer who comes to you now will have read 30 pages of text on your website, and there'll be 75% decided that they're going to buy when they walk into the showroom door or wherever. They'll already decided to buy from you. And that's all irrelevant if the salespeople don't know how to close that sale and finish it all off. We can only do so much, and the sales can only do so much.
So, if someone hasn't got something in place, where do they start? What are some of the things they should be looking at in terms of the metrics? Are there any tools out there that you can recommend that might help them on that journey? Discuss.
Well, let's start with marketing and then flow through to sales, because that's kind of the natural sort of way of in my brain.
So,
Okay. Sorry. Go on.
Marketing and PR, and then I'll pick up for the sales side.
Like, okay, so I guess the starting point is to work out who your ideal customer is, and from a marketing and PR perspective, what you then go and do is work out where they hang out, and then try and meet them in those sorts of areas. And I suppose it's also being able to make sure that you're talking their language. So you'd be looking at age, state of life, sort of aspirations and all that sort of thing, because that way, as a brand or a business, if you're talking the language of your customer, then they're going to feel that actually that you are that you resonate with them. Yeah. And are therefore a bandwagon that they might want to go and jump on and be a part of, and again about being about community from there.
Absolutely. That's always your start point, is always the customer. You know, it's common sense, isn't it? If you're going to sell something to somebody, know who they are. And then I would sort of add on to that then, if you were looking at how your marketing should respond to that in terms of things like content and stuff, there is a certain level of must-haves. You know, your background, who you are, use the product details, and then I think I kind of encourage people to draw a sort of line and say, okay, well, that's the stuff that is evergreen and must have, so that the salespeople have a leaflet to give to somebody. You know what I mean? It's down to that sort of level. After that, get different. If there's 50 people doing something and you're going to fight, you know, against 50 other people who are already established, particularly for a new business, don't do that. Do something different. Think about the customer. Take the stuff that Eleanor's been talking about and go, okay, so if I find 1,000 customers, I only need one sale. What can I do differently that'll get that one sale, and put that into your marketing? You know, appeal very, very. And we used to talk about that as niche marketing and bringing it down to people. And I think sometimes you can be slightly outside that and do something weird and different. Because my argument is always, if you do and it doesn't work, you didn't have anything to start with. You didn't lose anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm. So once marketing have created these lovely leads for you from a sales perspective, from a pipeline, first of all, it's working out the journey that your customer takes, the sales steps in your business from that initial inquiry coming through right through to actually closing the deal. So, for example, in my world, I've got query, I've got qualify, I've got meeting, I've got proposal, and I've got close. What are your sales steps? And then from the point of view of managing that, it's making sure that your customer is moving through those sales steps, and that each part of that process, as a salesperson, you're managing that effectively. So it's all very well, you going and having lots of meetings and producing lots of quotes. You are not going to get your conversion and your close. And it's about managing that through and looking, as I think Adam talked about, the customer experience. It's about that customer experience all the way through. For me as a sales trainer, when I have clients come to me who say to me, Julie, my sales team are not closing, I want to know what their sales steps are. And I want to know where in that process are we falling down, because that for me speaks volumes. And the end of the day, and let's talk about closing, and then I'll shut up, surprisingly. Closing does not happen at the last point of the sales process. Closing starts at the very, very beginning, and it's about the questions, it's about the understanding, it's about controlling that process. For me, a sales pipeline and all of that, let's make it visual. You can either do it on a spreadsheet or CRM systems or whatever, but look at that, and that visual look at that, you then start feeding, you can keep an eye on it. So that for me is what from a sales perspective, what my advice is to businesses is to have.
I think closing starts with the stuff that Eleanor was talking about.
Well, yeah, it does at the very beginning, because as it's about having that conversation with the right people right at the very, very beginning. It's who you're talking to. But it's surprising how marketing can supply a myriad of wonderful leads and do their jobs, and the sales team come along, grab them and cock it up.
Yeah, and you said there about, you know, where it's going wrong and what isn't working. Well, you know, we want to know that as well. If you've got something going wrong, can we help? Come and tell us. You know,
Absolutely.
so make the more that people can mesh those two things together, the better it will work. And it starts right at that avatar point, doesn't it? At that we used to call them pen portraits. Look how old I am. You know, for defining your customer.
Did they have pens back then? Yeah.
They didn't. Well, we did it on
Was
chalk.
it slates?
It was chalk and slate. It was like the Flintstones. We had a dinosaur that used to do it for us, like a dictating bird in the corner. Tom's trying to get a word in edgeways. If we keep talking, we can stop him. You know that.
I was just going to leave you guys to it and just sort of quietly duck out and just sort of. So I think you know that what you're saying, if sort of just to summarise a little bit, is you know is to be conscious that there might be a disconnect between your marketing and your sales and also other departments as well, which we've touched on, and also, you know, measuring these things. So, you know, Eleanor, you're talking about hanging out where your potential, some people call them suspects, don't they? Because they're not a prospect yet, because they haven't entered that journey yet. But it's measuring at each stage, you know, which of your marketing activity is generating the right type of people into the funnel. And as Julie said, you know, how many people are coming in, what's your conversion rate, and you know, all of those things. Then when you've got those metrics, you can actually do something about it to change it. So if you know you've got a particularly successful marketing channel, then focus on that one. If one of those steps in the sales funnel isn't working, then what's not working? Is it the, you know, initial meeting? Is it the proposal? Is it the close? And all those things, just so you can be sure of that. Something that I've used, which is a tool called Trello, which some of you might be familiar with. That's quite useful because it's almost like a drag and drop thing that you can drag people through your whole process, and it makes it quite easy to sort of like fit them in whichever column they're in, and you know, just sort of like look at the metrics from that point. And it's quite
Capsule CRM does the same thing, Paul.
Yeah. There's lots of CRM systems out there. So go on, Kev.
Sorry, I was going to say, from the marketing view, you did ask about tools. I mean, if you have the money, then certainly outsource, because you know these panels are here for people who know what they're talking about to give you their advice, and those same people will give you that advice, but they have to sometimes feed the kids as well. But when, you know, I think with startups, there are tools like Canva that you know, if you've got the time for the learning curve, will help. Use it and use them as long as you need them, and then get rid of them, give it to somebody who'll push it along for you, do it a bit further. But I think there is a repeat problem I see sometimes where people don't want to do the learning curve and expect the instant result. And I'm sorry, life isn't working that way. Just opening a Canva subscription is not going to create the stuff for you. So get in there and get your hands dirty. And ClickFunnels and sales funnels are very different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm loving the action, just in case anybody was.
That's the international recognised.
Yeah, he's been taking a 70s dance class.
I was putting a beat on it.
What's the action for shove it up your funnel?
Shove it up your funnel. Yeah.
And he's also going to write the music for it as well.
Writing the music, doing the lyrics.
He writes it, I'll sing it.
I'm halfway through the novel. Netflix are interested.
How many euphemisms can we put in this show? So the thing that I think is often neglected, which isn't strictly part of the sales funnel, but I see it's where some businesses make mistakes. Okay, so you've got your customer in, you've got the order. Then I think sometimes what's missing is that customer engagement, customer service, customer retention, because that's still important, particularly if you're selling something that's an ongoing sale, or you've got to do sort of like cross-selling and upselling. There's no point in getting them in, getting the sale, and then just neglecting them to you invoice. So I know we're digressing a little bit, but do you find that that's, you know, what happens in some of the clients that you're working with, that they haven't got all these elements working together?
Sometimes. And what I find is interesting is there are businesses, and not my current clients, but there are businesses I've been to see that they spend an awful lot of time on marketing and energy and money in generating new clients. And then when I sit with them and go, yeah, of course we can look at new business development, but what are you doing about your existing? They look at me blankly. And I just want to bash my head on the desk, because your existing clients, your clients that have spent with you, they know that you like you, trust you. They are the easiest people to upsell, cross-sell, offer additional services. They like to hear from you, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I just, yeah, I can't stress enough. Don't forget them, guys and gals, because that is one of the easiest ways to generate revenue into your business. Is to
And
work.
one of your best places for feedback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, something that is neglected often, that you know, people are focusing too much on the front end marketing at the top end of the funnel, and actually neglecting what's sitting there, you know, because they're so focused on getting what they think is new business. And as you've touched on, you know, it's easier to sell to an existing client than start from scratch. I think people say 7 times more costly, you know, to find a new client than it is to sort of engage an existing one and potentially sell them something else or continue that relationship. So it's, you know, it's not to be neglected. I think.
Yeah, I think we need to. Sorry, go on.
No, Kevin.
I was just following up on that as well from from what Julie was saying. I think the other thing that we need to be very careful of for all our sakes is clients who are looking for the the rainmaker and the silver bullet. The person who's got it's a bit gets a bit dry out there for sale. So go and get somebody to make it rain, and they go and give a lot of money to some high caliber salesperson, give them no support, chuck them outside, and funnily enough, it doesn't rain. Or alternatively, they go, okay, well, social media will save me. No, on its own, it won't. It's not going to do anything. In fact, it's never going to sell anything. It's not what it's for. And I think there is one of the biggest battles I think we have on our side of for the one better phrase, on our side of the desk, is sometimes getting our clients to understand. I just did the diplomacy pause that Julie did when you asked her the question earlier. There's a diplomacy pause where you go, am I going to upset anybody by saying this?
Unlike you, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From this side of the desk, it's sometimes very hard to get people on the other side of the desk to appreciate that we're not miracle workers. We are not the answer to all your prayers. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of a spread of things. And soft metrics are sometimes just as important as the hard metrics when it comes to that. People need to know you're there, and ignoring your current customers is a classic mistake. Yeah.
I know from my business is that actually my existing customers or clients who have been clients have been the best source of new business for me, because if you do a good job, and even when things haven't necessarily worked out in quite the way you'd anticipated, you often get people saying, actually, you know what, if you need help in this area, then you go to Julie or you go to Kevin and things like that. I think the other thing actually, and it's something I think that small businesses are particularly prone to, is over servicing, and that's another whole ball game. But actually, once you've got your customer, you're so keen to keep delivering, you do have to make sure that actually you end up being cost effective for you as a business, and it doesn't cost you to work for them.
Yeah, there is commerciality there. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to add to the people out there around sales funnels, setting them up, manage them, and having them be effective?
All I'd say is, look, if you need any help, reach out to me, and I'm happy to give some people advice, but don't wing it. Don't try and do it on the back of a fag packet. It's something that, to keep that consistency of revenue, to keep the growth, to achieve your goals, it is imperative that you sit down and spend a bit of time just looking at it.
Yeah, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Boxers learn to dance as much as they learn to punch. So be agile. Think about what you're doing. Keep on your feet. Keep on your toes. Keep moving. Keep looking. And like I said, the other thing I would say is get the metrics. Understand what you're doing. Julie's 100% on that. But don't forget the soft stuff as well.
Yeah.
Don't forget the relationships, the psychology behind what you're talking to people about, people's motivations, all the stuff that doesn't do it. Rory Sutherland is a great example. He says if you do the metrics, you shouldn't have a doorman on a 5-star hotel. But everybody who turns up at a 5-star hotel wants the doorman. He just doesn't appear on the spreadsheet. So don't forget that you're dealing with people. People buy from people in the end.
Agreed.
Okay, guys, thank you for your time today. We'll wrap it up there. We're here every Tuesday at 11 a.m. with a panel of experts. 3 is my target. Sometimes we only have a couple for whatever reason. Next week, we'll be looking at more the sort of like operation and resource topics. So